Hello and welcome to the Sunshine and Sparkle show. Today with me I have Jenny Frudgley and Dominic Skinner, who are from the local council, and I have Neil Davis, who is the CEO of Pashley Cycles. So we're going to start off with a promotional video that we've been making for Pashley Cycles. So we're going to put that on now and hope you enjoy that.
Stratford-upon-Avon is the birthplace of William Shakespeare, also the home of Pashley Cycles, Stratford's second most famous brand. Founded in the Midlands in 1926 and then in Stratford in the 1960s, they make hand-built beautiful bikes exported to over 40 countries worldwide, and is the last of the historic manufacturers to still hand-build bikes in the UK. With markets growing in e-bikes for consumers, last-mile cargo and high bike schemes, Pashley is at the centre of some exciting growth markets.
Stratford gets over 2.5 million tourist visits annually. A bike scheme will give visitors an alternative and enjoyable mode of transport around town. We'll also work as part of an integrated transport solution by linking park and ride sites and the stations more readily to the town and its attractions, reducing town centre congestion. Everyone is also aware that Stratford has significant traffic congestion, which gets worse every year and will continue to worsen as we build more housing. This is despite significant spending to support increased car usage. A bike scheme would be a far more cost-effective way of reducing congestion by reducing the number of shorter car journeys. It would also help reduce air and noise pollution and improve general fitness and well-being. There are bike schemes in various forms in many UK towns and indeed internationally. Research shows that bike schemes, supported with the right cycle infrastructure, can significantly reduce car usage for short journeys. Pashley is involved in two of the highest profile capital city schemes in the UK, providing the bikes for both London and Edinburgh. Experience from these schemes shows that a good quality bike is needed with a well managed and maintained scheme. The scheme would be app-based in common with most schemes. Docks would be located at key locations around town to serve both visitor and local traffic. For example, both stations, the park and rides, the main visitor attractions such as the theatre and the Shakespeare houses, and then also to serve the local population, so for example in Shottery, Tiddington, Bishopton and so on. A modest fee would be paid for usage, and the bikes would need to be returned to the docked locations at the end of a journey. An operating team would then manage bike maintenance and ensure bikes were located in the most appropriate areas. The scheme would make Stratford more accessible for visitors, rather than trying to bring cars into town, and also offer them a different and enjoyable way to see the town. Locally, the benefits are significant. It would offer reduced congestion through less car journeys, reducing noise and air pollution, and actually reducing journey times. It would make cycling more accessible for many people, improving health and well-being. The idea would be to run it as a community scheme, so local groups would be involved in bike maintenance and management, creating local ownership and engagement with the scheme, and employment also. Essentially funding and commitment. The scheme would cost money to implement and run, so it need investment. In addition, to really embrace cycling and deliver a fantastic experience, cycling infrastructure would also need to be improved. While the cost of this would only be a fraction of the spend on roads, our culture is essentially based around the car. We really need to embrace the message that a cycle scheme has multiple benefits, including actually improving car traffic flow, all at a relatively low cost. Part of the funding could come from local bodies who would support community group involvement and also recognise the well-being and participation benefits. We also believe that funding would be forthcoming from sponsors keen to promote their brand to the 2.5 million annual visitors. Also, indications suggest local businesses would contribute to a bike pool to have bikes located at their workplace. However, local investment on top of this will also be required to ensure the scheme could be launched and properly operated. The first phase would be to use what we refer to as manual or normal bikes to link the town, the transport infrastructure and the local population. The second phase would involve electric bikes. These really are the future and are massively beneficial for older users and those on longer journeys. We currently are testing the new Pashley e-hire bike I personally have done 50 miles in the last couple of weeks, including going up Borden Hill a couple of times last weekend, and the experience really is fantastic. E-bikes would enable the scheme to be extended to a wider profile user base in terms of age and also geography, so it would allow the inclusion of villages such as Snitterfield, Welford, Alveston and so on, converting car journeys to e-bike journeys. Visitors could also then get out and see more of the local area with e-bikes, so the local area would become a visitor attraction in its own right.
So we have a bike just here. It's a London bike, which they make at Pashley Cycles. Can you tell us a little bit about the bike for us?
Yes, of course, yeah. This bike is built just around the corner from here, so it's built by Pashley Cycles in Stratford. And Pashleys are the UK's oldest bike manufacturer, still building bicycles in the UK. This one is designed specifically for the London scheme and is slowly rolling in and replacing the current bikes. And it's designed to be very heavy duty. It can deal with weights of maybe 2 or 3 people jumping on it and playing with it. The cables are hidden so it can't be vandalised. It's got internal gears and brakes, so it's low maintenance. So it's designed to make a scheme very functional, so that when people go and find a bike, it will be available, it will be working and they can use it.
Okay, so what are the possibilities of having a bike scheme in Stratford?
The possibilities really come down to the appetite to have a scheme from the local community, and also then how we provide the scheme collectively in terms of funding and running it. There's a lot of goodwill in the area to try and do a scheme. So it's really therefore how we get that together and turn it into the practical delivery of something that will work and be sustainable for the local community.
Okay, so more, if we look more on the side of like cycle paths and where the bikes would be riding, what would be, how would that work in Stratford?
I think there are 2 communities of cyclists in Stratford. You've got tourists who actually come to Stratford, don't have a bike, and actually would probably be looking towards hiring a bike. I believe there are some hire facilities already, but this would be a very much higher grade scheme. And then you've got commuters like me. I cycle everywhere in Stratford. I rarely use my car to come from where I live on the Banbury Road up into Stratford, and I might actually cycle 2, 3, possibly 4 times a day to meetings, to shop, to meet friends, to have coffee. So I use my bike for everyday use.
Okay.
Right. And I find Stratford should be a cycle-friendly town, but it needs an awful lot of work to bring it up to that pinnacle of being really a cycle-friendly town. We need to encourage more people out of their cars for short journeys and onto their bicycles, scooters or walking.
With having a bike scheme in Stratford, what are the practicalities of having one here?
I mean, if you start with the bike, then this one says heavy duty design for London. This one's actually logoed up for the sponsors in London, so one in Stratford, how it looked would depend on the funding available, depending on the sponsors as well. So, I mean, part of it would be the bike. Then around that we'd need the infrastructure to support it. The bikes typically are kept in docks, so you need to have docks available to put the bikes into. And then we'd need people to operate the scheme, to maintain the bikes, keep them in good working condition, make sure they're in the right places, so that people went to where their most use was, there were bikes there. And then we need a system for people to be able to hire them. Most of these are app-based these days. So app-based systems, you can go and hire them, use the app to unlock the bike, do your journey and then put it back at the end.
Hello, what is your name?
My name's Adam Keeling.
My name is Emily.
Do you know what a bike scheme is, or have you ever heard of one?
Yeah.
No, I haven't actually. Could you explain?
A bike scheme is a scheme where they can hire a bike for as long or as little as they would like. So for the bike scheme, who do you reckon the main target audience would be around Stratford area?
Well, I know that they get a bunch of tourists in Stratford, so it'd definitely be good for them to have a way to get around sort of easy.
Probably better for like locals in Stratford. So if we could like, you know, instead of like walking or like driving to like work or school or whatever, they could just ride a bike.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Thank you so much, Emily.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what are the benefits, like the health benefits, and of there being a scheme in Stratford?
I think that things like obesity and social isolation have been widely publicised in national news over the last couple of years. Having a scheme like this where physical activity is more accessible for people, I think would have a positive benefit on that. On the mental health aspect, we're seeing a lot of development in Stratford, a lot of housing development all over the place. A lot of these places don't necessarily have easy accessible routes into town, and Jenny made the good point about our roads are going to become more and more clogged, so we should be encouraging people to get out and use bikes. So from a mental health point of view, it gets people out into the community. There's opportunity for community-based groups around cycling, which I think is really important. So it's tackling that social isolation, but also talking about taking cars off the road, about improving the environment as well. I think there's a two-pronged thing here. So it's improving our air quality, which is a big issue around it in Stratford. Looking at places like the Birmingham Road, and then in town, Wood Street, for example, we get a lot of parked up buses. If we can look at taking some of that traffic off the road and encouraging people to use a scheme like this, I think it's only going to have a benefit for people's health, people's mental well-being, and our environment as a whole.
I'd like to just put in there, we have huge problems around pick-up and drop-off times at our schools, and actually youngsters cycling to the secondary schools in town. And I think we really do need to be looking carefully at cycle, scooter, walk to school schemes to take away that morning traffic. Less traffic on the roads in the morning, you'd encourage more people to get on their bicycles for short journeys to go to work. So there would be benefits all around there. And I do think we need to be looking at our local councils to actually work to actually produce these schemes. I know of one in London where my son and daughter live, which is my grandchildren's school. It's a walking school, and there's a map outside that tells you how long it will take you to get to school from certain areas in a kind of bullseye. And it really gives parents the information, gives them the data, and they can actually make a decision to leave their car at home.
I think what a scheme like this does as well is it raises awareness of the benefits of using bikes, of cycling. Not everyone can afford a bike, and I think if you make it more accessible for families, then you're encouraging to do it more. For example, my son has just turned 4, and for his birthday bought him his first bike, and he absolutely loves it. Now, if we as a family didn't cycle, then he might not have that opportunity. So I think introducing a scheme like this, encouraging parents, not just visitors to Stratford, so not just the tourists, but the residents to get involved and get behind it, I think you've got ultimately a successful scheme which ticks a lot of boxes. And Jenny's completely right. Councils really need to be getting behind this.
Thank you for being here today. And I hope you enjoyed the episode of Sunshine and Sparkle. But yeah, I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.